Okay, so I'm going to run through this fairly quickly. Firstly, this is the first bit you need. This is called a breadboard. You'll notice that we've got a whole bunch of holes here, right? So basically these holes all the way down here are all joined together. They're like a whole bunch of sockets, basically. So they sort of look like similar to this. Okay, you can see we've got a whole bunch of sockets, boop, 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 and they're joined together by this rail here, right? So inside the breadboard is a pretty similar sort of setup. I mean, you can't see the sockets in there, but they're in there. So when you join something, when you put something in this, it will automatically be joined to everything in that rail. Okay. Same with this one and this one and this one. They're all connected, but only down this way. Okay. They're not connected from this one to this one, or this one to this one, or that one to that one. It's only this way. Similarly, the other side of the board is separate from this side. Okay. Those two portions are not connected together. The only way they get connected together is by links. So, or, if you put an IC or a component in there. So, your first component is your LM358 integrated circuit, or IC. Okay, now what that does, there's a little circuit in here. That's why it's called an integrated circuit. Basically, the way they work is that this is a circuit that's used often within many other bigger circuits. So basically, it's just shrunken down, so you don't have to put a whole bunch of components together. It's just all put into one component, right? So that's your first one. Make sure that you've got like a little notch cut out of one side. It will either have a notch or a little circle on the casing, and you want to make sure that goes to the left. It's absolutely crucial. Okay, so next up, you want to grab yourself a 2.2 meg ohm resistor. Doesn't matter if it looks exactly like this, whether it's blue casing or a cream casing or bigger or even smaller, just as long as it's 2.2 meg ohm resistor. And you want to make it look like this, okay? So if you grab a pair of nail clippers, everyone's got nail clippers, or, wire cutters, whatever you got. Leave yourself about 5mm out of one leg, snip it, and then get the other. Oh, let me just pick it up. You get the other side and just bend it straight over. Like that, okay? And you'll end up with this. Okay, so that one will go in here. So you leave one space, and then that one leg goes in pin 1 of the IC. Actually, I should mention these pins on the IC are numbered, so it's pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now, next up, you want to grab yourself a 150k ohm resistor. Okay. This one I have here, I've already bent. Looks slightly different. It's got a blue casing. Doesn't matter. You want to bend that much exactly the same way, except this leg is, except this leg just fans out a little bit further, okay? Now I want to get that one in there and there. Okay, see that? So that's going from pin 1 to pin 3 of the chip. Okay, next thing we do is grab one of your 100k resistors. Okay, bend it to look like that, and that will go in here. Okay, so that's going from pin 3 of the IC out to a rail out here. So leave 2 spaces, chuck it in there. And then similarly, you want to grab the second 100k ohm resistor and put it from pin 3 again. And this time you want to bring it out this side here. Okay, you can see that. So it's not going into a pin of the IC at all, it's going into this blank rail. Next up, I want to grab your 0.1 microfarad capacitor. Now these are bipolar, which means they go either way. Doesn't matter which way around they go. Same with all the resistors, doesn't matter which way around they go. They are bipolar. Now this goes from pin 2 of the IC out to that rail, the same rail that the second 100k resistor went into. Okay. Now, next we have 2 diodes. These are 18 volt, 500 milliwatt Zener diodes. Okay, and you'll notice they've got a little black line on them. First one, you want to bend, make it look like that. Okay, with the stripe to the left. Now we want to put that one in from pin 7 in the IC out to a blank rail out here. Make sure it's in there nice and firm. Okay. Now with the second Zener diode, you want to have the black stripe facing the other direction. Alright. So you want to put it from out of that leg. Sorry, from out of the same row that leg of the first Zener diode is in. You want to take it out there. Okay. Boom. And then we have your bicolor LED. Now this is a green and red. It doesn't matter what color it is, just as long as it's bicolor. Basically, this LED will show you that the circuit's working correctly and that the current is biphasic, which means it's running both ways. It's going one way and then it's coming back the other way. Alright, and when the LED is flashing red and green, it will show you that the current is biphasic, which is what you want. Now that will go out of this leg of the Zener diode, and you want to have flat side of your LED, right? That's the negative leg, and the long one, when you usually buy an LED, will have one long leg like that. That's the positive, and it'll have a flat side on the casing, and that's the negative. So it doesn't matter if you chop those legs, you'll always have that indicator on the LED casing. The flat side is the negative. Now you want to put the negative out of the positive. Get in there. Out of the... Oi! That didn't work too well. Just straighten that up. Now the positive, so with the stripe on the Zener diodes, that indicates the positive, okay? So negative out of the positive, jam in there, alright. Now I'm going to leave the legs of this long, because when I put the potentiometer in there, it will still sit out above the height of the potentiometer, okay, which means you can have it popping out the top of the box. Next up is the 22 microfarad electrolytic capacitor. Now these are not bipolar, okay, you'll notice that it's got a black stripe. This one is a blue casing with a black stripe. This one here is a black casing with a grey stripe. If it's got a stripe on it, okay, that is the negative leg, and it will indicate it on there for you. You can see there's a little negative marking on that one, and that one is a negative marking. Okay, so chuck that one in here. Now, out of the positive leg into the negative leg of the capacitor. Alright, boom. You want to have that. It could go in this next rail here, but we'll just give ourselves a little bit of space and leave a gap between that one gap, and then put the electrolytic capacitor in there. Okay. Next up, we have the potentiometer. Now, we'll put that in the end of this micro board. Alright, now, look, it really doesn't matter how big your breadboard is, as long as you've got everything connected the way I've got it connected here, your device is going to work. Right, now, here comes the fun and messy part. So, you want to grab a link. This link could be anything. Alright. Just use this cable here. And I want to run from this row here. Okay. This is your negative row, or your negative rail. Alright. Now I want to put a link from pin 4 of the IC into there, into that negative rail. Okay. Now, I mean, you could see. Let me just show you something. If I pull this resistor here out, alright, that resistor there out, I can swap their position, but they're still in the circuit in the same configuration. Okay, it's still coming out of pin 3 of the IC, and it's still going out to the negative rail. And this resistor will still come from pin 3 of the IC to pin 1 of the IC. See that? They're in a different spot, but exactly the same configuration. Alright, so let me just put that link back in there. Boop, boop. And you can do that with any of the components, just as long as they're in the right configuration. Okay, now, we got another link. Now, I want to take this negative rail, alright, because that's all negative rail there. I want to bring that over to the other side of the board and plug it into there. So what that's doing is taking all of those components and basically connecting it to this side of the board, and this rail here, or this row, is where I'm going to plug in the negative DC, so the negative of the battery outputs. Right, and then next up, I'll grab this link here. Now that over here is positive. Okay, so I'm going to connect, so that's positive input for that resistor. Alright, so I'm going to connect that row in there. Alright, I'm going to connect that to the positive rail. This is where the power will come in. Alright. Now, here's the tricky part. Now, the reason I'm showing you on a board this small is because I supply kits that are built on these boards. And the reason I build it on these boards is because this is like the smallest board you can possibly get and the easiest to get into a box. I think the next size up from this is like 3 or 4 times as big, you know, and it ends up quite large. It's like out here sort of thing, you know. It's just, there's a lot of wasted space. And these boards, you know, I mean, they're not hugely expensive, but I mean, like I think the next size up, you're looking at like $12, $15 or something, you know, which is just, it's ridiculous. You don't need to have like this huge board when you're only using this tiny portion of it, you know. So this one here, this one's a bit tricky. Now this has to go in between the 2 legs of that capacitor in there, alright? So you want to take it from pin 1 of the IC, it goes out to pin 6, sorry, pin 6 of the IC. So, boom, in there, alright. Next link, that goes from pin 5 to pin 3, boom, boom, okay. So you've got pin 3 to pin 5, pin 1 to pin 6. Okay, next is a link that goes from, and I'll just pop this out for a sec. Okay, we want to go from the middle leg of the potentiometer. Okay, so that's going to end up back in there. Alright, so we're going to take it from the middle leg of the potentiometer out to pin number 3. Pin number 7 of the IC. Alright, we're going to come same row where that diode is, which is connected to pin 7 of the IC. Okay, I'm going to bring that out to the center of the potentiometer. Okay, we're nearly ready to go. Next up is the 820 ohm resistor. Here's one I cut before. I'll just put that in there. Okay, so that's got to go from that first leg of the potentiometer. Right, things are getting a little difficult to see. Oh, right. The first leg of the potentiometer will be there. Okay, in there. That will go. Alright. Over to anything over here. Just don't put it into that. Actually, yes, you can put it straight into. A bit fiddly. So that can go and line up with that capacitor. Okay, so you just chuck it straight in there. So you line up that rail with that. Okay. Potentiometer goes back in. Boop. And that's pretty much it. The device is built. So all you got to do now is get some power into it. Next step is to get 3 9-volt battery snaps, okay, or battery clips. And you want to grab one of the red legs and strip a bit of that wire back. I'm going to use my fancy tool here. we want to take back. I'll take up about 10 mil, 10, 15 mil, right? And you want to get black. And you want to get black of another one, the second one, right? And you twist those two together. Just like that. Alright, and then fold it back over the cable. And then cut yourself a little bit of electrical tape. And I could use any sort of tape really. What you want to do is isolate that wire. If it touches anything else, any other wire in the circuit, then you'll create a short circuit and the device won't work. So I'll just tape that up. Alright. Like that. And then you grab, you've got a red and a black joined together. Okay? So then you want to grab the black. You've got red, black, grab the black. Join it to the red of another. Like so. Fold it over, do the same thing with the tape. And what you'll end up with is 3 battery snaps joined together. And you'll have a red wire and a black wire. Okay? So you've got black, red, and then red and black. That's your inputs. Now, so at the ends of these wires, when you get them, they're already tinned or soldered on the ends, and they will slide nicely into these sockets, okay, and stay in there. You may have to just strip a little bit more of the wire, maybe even fold it over just to get a decent connection in there, but most of the time they'll just go in and they'll stay there. Alright, and this one's making a liar of me, but okay. I've got another battery loom here, one that I prepared earlier. Now you may need to mess around with the circuit a little bit just to get the wires in the right place, and you might have something loose here and there, but like once you get a hang of this, and once you know how it's built, you'll be able to mess around with it and get it working properly. And as I said, with these links, I would highly suggest that you create them out of paper clips because they're nice and strong. If you bought a kit from me, what I provided was these link wires here. And the reason I did that is because they're really easy to get in and out of these sockets. So, it's going to be easy for a beginner to find the right holes with these things. All right. And then once you've worked it out, you can replace those with a whole bunch of paper clips. That's it. And we'll get to outputs. Okay, this is one electrode that goes into here, which is pin 6 of the IC. Okay, it's on the same row as the link that goes out to pin 1. Okay, and your other output comes out of the end of the electrolytic capacitor. And so we just put the leads one at a time, one into the negative rail, okay, and then one into the positive rail in there. Touch the two leads together. There we go. The device is working. Whoop. So basically it's just that, as I said before, that light there is just showing you that the device is actually working and it's running biphasic. That's why you need a bicolor LED, because the current is running backwards and forwards, and one way it'll flash red, the other way it'll flash green. Okay. And if it isn't working straight away, just check your connections and then adjust your potentiometer as well. Okay. And that's it.